This little boy dragged an ammunition box through the flames of a brutal war. At such a young age, he went to war. Artillery fire is deafening in his ears. An old soldier scolded him. "Why are you here?" Suddenly a shell exploded. It instantly made the little boy's ears ring. The veteran told him to open his mouth wide to relieve it. That's when the veteran saw the little boy was delivering ammunition to them. The old soldier thanked the little boy and seriously ordered him to go back quickly. Even though this little boy was only 6 years old, he had been in the army many times and earned first-class merits. He came to the army a few days ago covered in wounds. His name was Sergei. German soldiers attacked his village. They went on a massacre and burned down houses. His mother and brother were not spared. Sergei escaped through a window with the help of his neighbors. Sadly, his neighbors were also killed by the German soldiers. Sergei looked back and saw his house destroyed by fire. He kept crying out. He was left homeless and orphaned. Sergei went into the forest, but the forest was filled with danger. Bombs exploding everywhere, the threat of wild animals, and no one to protect him. Sergei fell several times. He had to use a twig as a weapon. Sergei walked for a long time. He found a small river and took a big gulp of water. At that moment he heard someone talking. It was a German soldier. He rushed to hide in a hole in a tree, but something dangerous was hiding within. The boy, alone and petrified, sadly found a poisonous snake approaching him. The snake was spitting at him, but he didn't dare to go out of the hole, because outside were German soldiers. Sergei was so scared that he covered his mouth. He closed his eyes in fear. He didn't dare to make a sound. If the German soldiers found him, he will die for sure. We see the poisonous tongue of the snake crawling up behind Sergei. Sergei was so nervous. He was about to cry out, but just at that moment, the German soldiers put out the fire and left. Sergei rushed out. He went to look for any food they had left. Sergei went back into the forest. His shoes were also torn, so he used tree bark as shoes. When he was thirsty, he drank dew. When he was hungry, he ate leaves. When he was sleepy, he slept on the ground. A hedgehog crawled over to him. Sergei asked the hedgehog innocently. But soon afterward, he was found by the Soviet scouts. Sergei was finally rescued. Commander Kuznetsov looked at the weak Sergei. As he looked at Sergei, who was wounded all over, his heart broke into pieces. He asked Sergei, "Where is your mother?" Sergei cried. Everyone understood. They all felt sorry for him. Commander Kuznetsov spoke tenderly.
Всё, парень. Не бойся, ты у своих.
Sergei asked tenderly. Everyone laughed, because Sergei was so cute. Everyone brought him a lot of goodies. Such a small boy was delivering ammunition on the battlefield. It was either that or deliver letters. Sergei had just arrived in the army. He was assigned to first recover from his wounds. He became a joy to the soldiers. Nurse Katya rubbed his wounds with medicine. Commander Kuznetsov was worried about Sergei's wound. He came to see him in the hospital. He gave Sergei the pistol he had with him, so Sergei could play with it. Sergei lifted his shirt, showing Commander Kuznetsov the tank painted on his belly. Commander Kuznetsov looked at Sergei. He laughed happily. Nurse Katya and the soldiers all liked Sergei very much. They wanted Commander Kuznetsov to keep him, but Commander Kuznetsov insisted that he be sent away. It was too dangerous for a child on the battlefield. Sergei was very sad to learn that he was being sent away. He said to Commander Kuznetsov, because of these words, Commander Kuznetsov's defenses were completely broken. There was no one waiting for him outside the battlefield. He decided to adopt Sergei to be his son. Sergei stayed in the army. The soldiers were very happy. The tailor made Sergei a uniform that fit him well. Sergei put it on. He ran around happily. But Commander Kuznetsov said, to be a qualified soldier, everyone must pass a test to put on the uniform in the time it takes for the match to burn. The little boy got up quickly and excitedly, putting on his clothes. Commander Kuznetsov pinched the match and timed it. Eventually, Sergei passed the test, but the pile of matches showed. Commander Kuznetsov had let the test slip. Sergei became a real soldier. He ran outside to show off to the others. But just then, enemy planes attacked them. Sergei was taken to a hidden trench, looking at the enemy planes in the sky, listening to the sound of explosions. This was the moment when he really felt the horror of war. After the attack, Sergei was worried about his father and Aunt Katya. He went around asking about them, when a medic told him not to make any trouble. Soldiers have a role to play, to help others. Sergei went to the tent of the wounded. He gave water to the wounded. He reads a letter from the veteran's family to a veteran in a decent manner. But Sergei can't read or write. He said some auspicious words, and then he stood on a stone pier, singing the songs of his homeland. He comforted the wounded soldiers. Everyone was very happy with him. After the war, Sergei understood The responsibility of being a soldier. Have you ever seen a 6-year-old soldier? He learned how to be a grown-up, even shaving himself in front of a mirror, and took a task from Commander Kuznetsov. Commander Kuznetsov gave Sergei the righteous task, to deliver letters from home to the soldiers. The soldiers watched Sergei, carrying a bag of letters. They gathered around him happily. Sergei told them, before taking the letters, they had to do a dance, to express his joy at getting the letters. The soldier liked Sergei so much, so he performed a dance of his homeland on the spot. And that's how Sergei found the meaning of his life in the army. He delivered letters to the soldiers every day. He never felt tired. One day he called the name of a soldier. He said he had a letter for him, but there was no answer after a long time. An old soldier told him the soldier had been killed. Sergei took off his hat to pay tribute to the hero who had died so bravely. One morning, Sergei took his binoculars, like a scout, scouting the enemy on the post. The 6-year-old soldier saved the whole army. He was on patrol and found a shoe moving in the grass. Sergei feared that it was the enemy, spying on the army, so he rushed back to report. The soldiers, half-heartedly, followed Sergei for a long time. They came to the haystack. They set the haystack on fire. The smoke from the burning managed to smoke out the people inside. Sergei took a look. There were German soldiers. They scurried like rats. The soldiers immediately subdued the enemy. They captured the radio with coordinates sent by the German soldiers. They were prevented from being bombed by bombers. Sergei did a great service. He saved the whole unit. And to his credit, Sergei didn't tell his father, because Sergei thought, as a real soldier, this is what he should do. What do you think of Sergei's performance? The little boy crawled on the battlefield. He rolled over and rolled into the battle ditch. He crawled to the soldier in front of him, anxiously asked how to connect the telephone line. It turns out that the war had blown up the telephone lines. Commander Kuznetsov had no way to command the front line of battle. This is undoubtedly the most fatal problem. Sergei learned this news, so he crept down the telephone line and crawled to the battlefield where the firefight was taking place. With his small body, he crawled close to the ground. Sergei had no fear. He slowly crossed the bullet-ridden area. Finally, he found his correspondent. But the bad news was, the correspondent was seriously wounded and could not repair the telephone line. So Sergei had an idea. He asked the correspondent to teach him how to connect the phone line. As a result, on his first try, he succeeded in repairing the communication. Commander Kuznetsov immediately took command of the front line. They were victorious in the end, but no one knew that the most crucial link in the middle of the battle was taken care of by Sergei. This battle marked the end of the war on the front, and the Soviet troops left to rejoin the army. Halfway there, the troops rested in a farmhouse. Sergei enters the house, looking curiously at a floor in the middle. The owner of the house told him that under the board were German airdrop duds that don't explode. It was too dangerous. Commander Kuznetsov got up immediately. He got everyone out and instructed his men to take the bomb out as well. After the bomb was disposed of, they went on their way again. This was also thanks to Sergei. But soon after they left, they encountered another mine on the way. A huge explosion occurred. The entire army was blown to pieces. Sergei was blown up. He was dizzy and his ears were ringing. Commander Kuznetsov was slightly wounded. Luckily, both father and son were fine. They soon rejoined the army. On this day, Sergei went to his father to get his mission. As usual, the 6-year-old soldier received an important assignment. Commander Kuznetsov asked him to check the army's equipment. Sergei came to the soldiers. He gave a serious order. He ordered everyone to stand in a line. They did not look at him as a child, and all listened to him. Sergei said loudly,
"Рота, у кого рваные сапоги, шаг вперед!"
At this moment Sergei, like an officer, checking the equipment carefully, and he, who could not write, cleverly asked the soldiers around him to write down the missing equipment. He handed it to Commander Kuznetsov's superior, the general. The general was shocked. He thought that Sergei would become a great man in the future. He wanted to reward Sergei. Sergei was overjoyed. He asked the general to let his father marry Nurse Katya. The general promised him, but on the eve of the wedding, the Germans launched another surprise attack. Sergei skillfully hid in the ditch. Commander Kuznetsov was pinned down in the trunk of a tree. Sergei cried out anxiously for his father. At the same time, he pushed the trunk with all his strength. But Sergei's strength was not enough. He couldn't push it, so he immediately went to get help. He rescued his father. Thanks to Sergei's many heroics, he was awarded a Medal of Merit, and not any of the soldiers present thought that Sergei was a child. They firmly believed that Sergei was an excellent soldier. End of the film. The film is called Soldier Boy. Our question for this issue: do you think little Sergei is a qualified soldier? If you think he is, comment 111. If you think he is not, comment 222. K thinks Sergei was so young. When he experienced the destruction of his family, although he became an outstanding soldier, he was still forced to do so. What child does not want to be in the arms of his mother? That's why Kay wishes there will never be another war in the world. This film is good. Kay encourages you to go see the original film. Well, that's all for this issue. Thank you for your likes and subscriptions. We will see you next time. Bye.